Hey, everybody. I wanted to welcome all of you to be coming here today to hear more about one of our many different and exclusive and innovative programs. But the program we're going to talk a lot more about today is the CMG Home Loans Cash Advantage program, which is really a game changer and has been a game changer for people across the country, since I know many of us in the industry are really challenged with buyers having challenges with getting beat out by cash offers. So we've rolled out, like I said, one of a handful of programs, but this is, I think, one of the top ones here is our Cash Advantage program. And I have the pleasure from just myself, but our team and one of our team members here, Bridget Lyons, Bridget, why don't you take the stage here and share a little bit more about the program?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for having me. Hi, everybody. My name's Bridget Lyons. I am the account manager here for the CMG Cash Advantage program. So this is a program that we have white labeled for CMG home loans that's going to help you as real estate agents turn your buyers into all cash buyers. So I have a few slides here. I'll go ahead and share my screen and we'll walk through just some use cases and talk high level. How does this program work? So the goal of this CMG Cash Advantage is really to turn every buyer that you work with into a cash buyer. It's becoming more and more competitive for your buyers, and more cash offers are entering the market. So we want to help your clients be able to compete and ultimately win their dream home. So this slide just goes over some use cases. We have closed well over 600 of these, what we call power buyer deals. So all cash deals where your client is able to remove contingencies. And these are some common use cases that we see. First one there being a client that wants to move into a specific, very desirable neighborhood. Maybe they have themselves written multiple offers on different homes and continue to lose out. That can be a very frustrating scenario for you and your client. CMG Cash Advantage can allow them to try their best with a non-contingent offer. So hopefully we can help you guys write a very strong cash offer with no contingencies, and that's going to help them beat out other cash offers or other contingent offers. Next one there is the client who has a lot of equity, but they're stressed about buying and selling at the same time. We know that scenario can be a lot of pieces are involved. It really takes the stars aligning to have a smooth process of if they have to sell their current home, that close date aligns perfectly with the close date of the new property. And if one thing goes wrong, that's the domino effect, and it can cause delays, may even cause your client to lose out on their new property if they don't remove that contingency in time. So with CMG Cash Advantage, we help your client remove their home sale contingency, write an all cash offer on the new home, move into it. We purchase it with cash, and then they have the time and flexibility to list and sell their current home. So they gives them a little bit more time, and the convenience factor is really what clients love about what we call our buy before sell program, which we'll talk a little bit more about. The next one there is for that client who's just nervous to start the process altogether. Maybe you have a first-time home buyer, they're worried about the market challenges, maybe hearing of other friends or family who are losing out against other cash offers, or they're worried about the interest rates. This product is going to help them ease their concerns. There is a fee for our product, but it can help your client even save money. You can use this as a negotiating tool to potentially negotiate a lower purchase price. So those clients who are really worried about every penny that they're paying, this could help them get in at a lower purchase price and beat out multiple offers. And then the last one there is what we call our rescue product. So this is for a client who's already under contract on a new home. You guys wrote a contingent offer, and now for whatever reason, it looks like that deal is going to fall through. We can step in, purchase the new home on behalf of the client, giving them more time to either get their departure property under contract or finalize financing to be able to buy back the home from us. And so that, helps them not have to lose out on the new home that they're under contract, potentially lose earnest money that they may have put down and give them a little bit more time and flexibility to get things sorted so that they can buy the new property back from us. Any questions here just on those use cases before I jump into a little bit more about the program itself, the costs and the timeline? I don't see any questions, so we'll move on. So high level, how does CMG Cash Advantage work? You and your clients are, if they're interested in shopping around, that's when we recommend you get them connected with a CMG loan officer to begin the pre-approval process. The loan officer will then send us that information about the client, and we will get them pre-funded, meaning that client now has the ability to shop with cash. Once you're able to go write that cash offer, that's essentially allowing your client to leverage the power of our cash and become a non-contingent cash buyer. Again, for that buy before sell scenario, where your client does need to sell their home in order to buy, this product allows them to secure their new home first and move into it. That's going to eliminate the stress and even the possibility of having to move twice, which is an added expense. Could also have added costs when they have to find temporary housing or a storage unit, things like that, when they're buying and selling at the same time. You as the agent, as well as the loan officers, are all going to work with an account manager, either myself or someone else on the team, from start to finish. We are the experts here on the product as well as your loan officer. So definitely lean on us if your client themselves have a lot of questions. We're happy to step in, clarify anything. We don't want there to be any surprises. So we're happy to have a three-way phone call and make sure everybody's on board and clear as to next steps before we get pre-funded and we write that cash offer. And like I mentioned, in many cases, we see that clients who do use CMG Cash Advantage end up saving money. So even though they're paying a cost for this product, which we'll touch on, we often see that clients are able to save 1 to 2, maybe even 3% because they're going in at a lower purchase price since it's a strong cash offer, or they're even just able to sell their departure property for more because they've been able to move out of it. You as the agent are able to stage it, really get it in pristine condition before listing it on the open market and have that ability to sell for more. Let's touch on those program costs. What is the client going to be paying? This is outside of the transaction, the cost paid to CMG Cash Advantage, and it's going to vary based on the product, cash buy before sell or cash buy rescue. Cash buy, that is for the client who's buying only. They do not have a home to sell. We're going to get them pre-funded and approved to write an all cash offer. The end cost to them is a 1% fee based on the new home purchase price. Cash buy before sell, that's where a client's buying, but they do have to sell their current home. There's usually a longer hold time there. So it's a higher fee of 1.9%, again, based on the new home purchase price. And then the last scenario there is, again, our rescue product. This is where a client's already under contract on a new home. You guys wrote a contingent offer, but now we need to step in to save the deal. We'll reassign the contract over to us as the buyer. This is usually a quicker turnaround time, so it is a higher fee of 2.1%. But again, the alternative there is something to consider. Is that client potentially going to lose earnest money that they already put down? That may end up being more expensive than that 2.1% fee. And again, that's based on the purchase price. Any questions here just on the fees or the products?
Hey, Bridget, can you discuss a little bit about, because I just had an agent that was having, or actually agent and a buyer yesterday had a question about the responsibility of the buyer as far as like when we're buying the property for the buyer, and then can you just quickly touch on the like purchasing expenses, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, the first step for a client is to get pre-approved with CMG home loans. So that's what we're going to be looking at is, are they approved for mortgage financing? We want to make sure that client is able to buy the home from us after we purchase it with cash. So the client will be responsible for buying the home from us at the same price that we purchased it at with cash. So if there is an appraisal contingency removed in the offer, the appraisal doesn't take place before the cash closing, it would take place before the buyback. So in the event there is an appraisal gap, the client would be responsible for bringing that additional funds to the closing. That's also something we look at during our approval process. If we feel that there's a chance for an appraisal gap, we'll talk with you and the client, make sure they're comfortable with that. Or if they're not, you guys can keep that appraisal contingency in the initial offer so that ultimately the client's responsible for buying the home from us at the same price that we purchased it at, along with the closing costs that we incur at our cash closing. So we pass that on to them at the buyback. Any other questions there? Did that answer it?
That did for me. Thanks.
Perfect. All right. Next slide here is just going over, again, some program cost savings. So we're comparing our product to a traditional purchase. If you're going in and writing an offer with a financing contingency, appraisal contingency, and maybe a home sale contingency, what is that going to look like for your client versus if they go in with that all cash offer? So price for the home, we're looking at that market price, whereas with Cash Advantage, you can potentially negotiate a 1% to 2% purchase price lower than market price. So saving some money there on the buy side. The client would also see market appreciation. So we can close sometimes quicker than the financed offer. The close date is always going to be based on our deal committee's approval. So that's case by case, but we can close sometimes within 10 to 14 days. Right now, we're looking at about 30 days, but again, that's always going to vary, and we want to help your client be as competitive as possible. But if we are able to close quicker than the financed offer, that could save the client or gain them an additional 1% to 2% in equity because we're securing that home sooner. For the sales price of that existing home, if they do need to sell their current property, they're going to sell based on the occupied price. So they're in the home. Maybe that client has a lot of kids or pets. That can make it a little bit harder to get the house staged and looking pristine. It may be even a little bit harder to have multiple open houses or hard to coordinate showings. Whereas with CMG Cash Advantage, this allows the client to move into their new home first. So you as the agent get to list a vacant home and have as many open houses and showings as possible to hopefully get multiple offers and a lot of interest and potentially sell for more. And then we're calculating the cost of moving twice and or temporary housing or storage. That's for, again, the buy before sell scenario. If a client is not able to secure their new home and move into it first, but they do sell their current property, then they need to figure out what to do in the meantime before they can move into the new home. And those costs can add up. Whereas again, with CMG Cash Advantage, they won't have that issue because they're already moving into the new property right away. Emotional costs, we say that's priceless with a CMG Cash Advantage. Real estate is very emotional. This is a huge transaction for your client. We want to eliminate some of those added stressors and help your client be in the best position to secure their dream home, rather than having to settle for what they feel is their second or third choice home when they are losing out on multiple offers. That can be not fun. They get excited and then they get disappointed. So with this, we're going to help them get their first choice home, get under contract right away. Service fees, again, for our product, is either going to be 1% to 1.9% or 2.1% for the rescue, where of course with the traditional purchase, they won't incur that cost. And then net benefit, that is going to be, we're totaling up all of those potential added fees there or gains. So potentially using CMG Cash Advantage, the client could gain an additional 1% to 6% value on the new home. All right. And then just some slides here for benefits. Again, you as agents now have this product available. When you're going out and talking about this with your clients, why do you want to offer this to them? Why do you want to get your client excited? It's because you as an agent are going to be able to increase your win rate. So again, if your client is able to get under contract quicker, that means you get to work with more buyers. If they're getting under contract faster than that financed offer, you also help them close quicker, which means a quicker commission for you. You would get paid your commission at the time of our cash closing. So again, if we close in 14 days, you get paid then. And then your client has that convenience of buying back once they sell their current home. Higher client satisfaction. Again, there's a lot of benefits for your client. It's meant to eliminate some of that stress, provide them with a lot more convenience. And that makes for a happy client. If they love the experience, they're obviously going to think of you as the agent who brought that possibility. So they're going to tell their friends and family about it and send you referrals. And then lastly, the client benefits. They get to spend less time shopping. Again, if they're getting under contract right off the bat on that first home, they're not spending months and months writing offers, losing out, and having to start the process again. This positions them with a higher chance of winning that dream home, getting under contract first instead of feeling like they're having to settle. And then that more convenient moving process. They get to decide on that close date of the new property, move into it right away, and then work to list and sell their departure home. And then some success stories, which we can share. I don't have to read all of these out, but you guys will have a lot of collateral available, whether you want to share it with your clients or just have it on hand when you're talking about the product. You can reference some of our, like I said, use cases and success stories that we've seen. So that's everything I have, but let me know if there's any questions or if I can provide any other clarification about the program.
I'm just looking at the chats here that we have, Bridget. The questions are coming in. One of the questions I had been receiving a lot is, what does that client profile look like that might be a good contender for this? Obviously, we talked about there's certain loan program types that work better for this, or amounts down. Can you just go into that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do, like I said, have an approval process. So what that looks like is we're going to work with the CMG loan officer to get that client's loan approval and property information, either property address of the new home or departure property. So we're looking at all of that as a whole. So we could make exceptions in certain areas, but what we're looking at on the financing side is a credit score of 700 or higher. We have approved under 650, but again, that's going to be an exception. So anything between 650 and 700, we're going to look at a little bit more closely. For the liquid funds, what we're really looking at is based on the product, but typically it's going to be a 2.5% deposit based on the purchase price. So 2.5% of the purchase price, we need to see that client has in checking or a savings account, and they have available to pay that once under contract. That deposit is going to cover the program fee to us, either that 1 or 1.9%. So the client does need to have a little bit of liquid assets available. But again, that's going to be based on the product, and we'll be able to dig a little bit deeper with the loan officers. We can share that feedback if we're a little bit concerned. If the client doesn't have enough funds, we'll share that with you. But a great thing about our product is the client can use gift funds for any of our costs. So they don't need to, if they have a family member who's able to provide them with some money, they can put that directly towards our deposit and our fees.
And as far as, I think we're usually looking for like probably a conventional loan buyer and VA.
Yeah, so conventional and VA are what we're typically going to look for in your guys' market, or jumbo.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And another question that came up the other day when I was discussing this is the fact of the appraisal piece of it. Are we going to be demanding appraisals on every one of these, or can they write without an appraisal contingency?
Yep. So we don't require the appraisal contingency for the cash closing. So that can take place without an appraisal. The appraisal would take place after the cash closing and before the financed buyback. So like I mentioned, in the event that there is an appraisal gap, the appraisal comes in lower than our cash purchase price, the client's ultimately going to be responsible for covering that difference. So if there is concern there, or the client just wants to cover that possibility, they're more than welcome to write an appraisal contingency in that initial offer.
Good. Question that I have here is, how much time does it take, or do they have after we've bought the property for the buyer? How much of a gap of time are they given before they have to have it purchased back?
Yep, great question. So if they are the cash buy client, they do not have a home to sell, we like to see that buyback happen within 30 days. So we purchase with cash, we want them to buy the home from us with their financing within 30 days. And then buy before sell, where they have that home to sell, it's usually at 90 days. What we're looking for with that departure is that it's under contract within 60 days of our cash purchase.
Very good. And what kind of equity position do the seller, like on the cash buy before sell, what kind of equity position does that profile need to have? What does that look like?
Yeah, again, we don't necessarily have a strict number there. We're going to look at everything case by case. But ultimately, is that client able to close with their financing based on the estimated net proceeds? If we see that it is tight, that if the property is on the market for 60 to 90 days and it's still not under contract, would that still, if they have to reduce the price, would that still allow them to net enough for the buyback? So if a client is very close there and we're seeing that there's a potential high number of days on market for that home, there's a chance that we won't approve that client. We don't want them to be in a bad position where now they've moved into this new home that we purchased with cash and they're not able to buy it back. So that's always very much a conversation. We're going to loop in the real estate agent there. We know that you guys are going to be that market expert at the end of the day. So if we have questions about a departure listing strategy, we think that maybe it's listed a little too high, we're going to ask questions. Do you have a CMA or some other information that can back up that listing strategy?
Very good. Don't see any other questions here at the moment. I don't know. We'll give it another minute or two here if anything else comes in. Otherwise, just to put in a plug for everybody that is on the Zoom today and whoever is watching this, we obviously would encourage you to get in contact with our team to evaluate those scenarios, like Bridget said, and get it into our pre-approval process for whichever program option is going to be the best fit, whether it's one of these programs or one of our other many different bridging or no home sale contingency type strategies that we offer here at CMG and our immediate team. In reference to the program itself, though, Bridget, would you also encourage, like, the sooner they can get those buyers to us or seller buyers, as far as if there would be any limitations or anything like that, or we want to get them to reserve their funding as quickly as possible? Is that safe to say?
Yeah, absolutely. So we encourage you to send any buyer over to get what we call pre-funded. That means we've reviewed their loan approval, and if they have a departure property, we understand their listing strategy. And that means our team has essentially set aside that amount of cash so you and your client can go shop around. You will get final approval based on the new home property address, but it's totally free and no obligation to get pre-funded. That just, again, it's another option. So at the time that you and your client find a house you want to write an offer on, that's when you get to compare. Okay, what would it look like if we write a financed offer? What would it look like if we go in with all cash? Even if you submit that cash offer, say it does not get accepted, there's no cost to your client. Again, no obligation. It's only once they use our product and go under contract is when we collect that deposit. So definitely get your clients approved, make sure that they have access to our program so that when it does come time to write a cash offer, we're ready to go. We get you that final approval and we can help you write that offer.
Fantastic. Anybody else have any questions? No, we're getting close on our time limit here. Again, thank you all for joining us today here, and reach out to myself or anybody on our team, and we'll be happy to get your buyers into homes faster and easier, and have some great success stories here that we can add to the many that we've already created. Again, thank you all for joining us. Take care.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.